Hi, thank you for clicking on the video and I hope everyone is doing really well. Today's video is part one of my story. I think it's time to share my background, my story, why I am so passionate about health and nutrition, why the fad diet, the diet industry bothers me so much, and what eating disorders mean to me and why it's really important for me to help people take the steps to recovery. And I think all of those kind of questions, all of those things can be answered through what I went through, what my story is. So today is just part one. There's going to be a lot of parts because this was a lifelong journey. So I will be starting at the very beginning of my life because that is where really all of it started, was from a very, very young age. So I'm just gonna get right into it. For me, I think it all started the first time I became very aware of my body and became very aware that I looked different and I had a different body shape from the other girls that I went to school with. And this happened the first time I was ever called fat. And I was about 3 years old when this happened. Because I was being called fat practically every single day of my life by a parent, one of my parents would do this, that I felt that all the other girls in my kindergarten, my preschool class, I felt like all of them were just skinnier than me. And I was the fat kid. Just because my parent was telling me I was fat practically every single day of my life. So in addition to being called fat, I was constantly being taught the lesson that being fat was bad. So I have always been a really shy person. As a kid, incredibly shy. The idea of being around other people and speaking in front of other people and interacting with other people really terrified me. So I was already a super shy kid. And so then from the ages of 3 and on, my self-esteem, my confidence, my own self-worth was incredibly low. I had no self-esteem. I had no confidence. And so you combine that with an already incredibly shy kid and you have a hot mess on your hands. So as I started to be in elementary school, I started to dissociate from my body. I couldn't, my mind was one thing, but my body just wasn't matching my mind. It wasn't what I thought it was supposed to look like. And I'm being fed these ideas like I'm fat, I'm ugly, I'm always gonna be fat, I need to change being fat, I need to stop being fat is bad. I'm being told these things all the time at home, and but in my head I wasn't fat. My brain kept telling me that I wasn't. My brain was telling me I was other things than what my body was. So it was really hard for me to kind of know the truth, because I feel in my head I think I look a certain way, but I'm being told by my parents that I look another way. I look the opposite way. So and then if they're telling me that I look this way and I see all my friends and they are all skinny and I feel like I don't look like them, it was just a whole jumble of chaos in my little 6-year-old brain. It was just so much to process for a little kid, and it was all just happening all at once in my head. It doesn't help that you're being called fat every day by your parent and being told to stop eating by your other parent. But there was an incident where I remember I was at a birthday party. It was a swimming party, and I love swimming, and whenever I got invited to a pool party, those were the best. I loved it. It was they were always so much fun. But it was a particular one, and I believe I was probably about 8 years old at this point. So we were having snacks, and we were having junk, chips and popcorn and all these things. And in my house, growing up, we never had those kinds of things. Once in a while, we could have popcorn, but we never had chips. We never really had candy, except around Halloween. But, we never had junk food. So, oh my gosh, birthday parties were the best, probably because I got to eat so much junk. But I remember I was reaching for popcorn. I distinctly remember this. It was cheesy popcorn, and that is something we would never have in the house. And it's cheesy popcorn, and I'm reaching for it. And one of my best friends, she had been my friend since like age 5. She looks at me and she's like, "Do you really think you should be eating that?" And I put it back and I didn't eat it because my skinny friend told me that that wasn't a good idea. And I think that slowly developed into reasons why I didn't like eating around people anymore, because I felt judged when I would eat, because it felt like, oh, look at that fat girl over there stuffing her face. And I remember for the rest of that day, like, the idea of going in the water made me sad. Like, I didn't want to like be in my bathing suit in front of my friends, and it just made me not want to be around people, and especially around people who were skinnier than me. Another event that happened that I think also played a part in my downfall into an eating disorder was every time my family would get together with my extended family, someone, a grandparent, an aunt, an uncle, someone would comment about my size. And it really bothered me. Being told you're fat every single day by your family, by your parents, then your friends start calling you fat and start judging you and start telling you to stop eating. And now your extended family is doing it too and telling you how big you're getting and how maybe you're eating too much and all of these things. So I was just hearing the word fat, the words getting bigger, like all of those things. I'm just hearing it from every corner of my life. It is being said to me, it is being thrown at me, and I am still a little kid. This was all around like 3rd, 4th grade that was happening. So it was probably like 8, 9, and then into like my 5th grade year, which is when you could start doing sports at my school. Now, my older sister is the athletic one, and my older brother is the smart one. So I was always living in their shadow. They were always a little bit better than me at something. And I could never be as smart as my brother, and I was never going to be athletic like my sister. But for some reason, everyone thought I should be like my sister. Everyone noticed right away that for like a 4th, 5th grader, I had incredibly long legs. And so they all just assumed I'd be good at running, which is joke's on them. I suck at that. I can't run. I mean, maybe I could run to save my life, but I'm not a runner in any way, shape, or form. I just have long legs, but they are better suited for something else other than running. So my sister was a huge runner, hold records at my school. I mean, her coaches would just talk about her all the time to me because they were also my teachers at that school. So I would always constantly hear, oh, when are you going to go out for cross country? When are you going to go out for track? Are you going to run this year? Are you going to be like your sister? And all I ever heard was, are you going to be like your sister? And it just frustrated me because I'm not her. I'm me, and I don't want to run, and I don't want to be like her. I want to be like me. I am me. You know, I just wanted to be me, and I wanted people to stop projecting what they thought I should be like. So her coach was also my PE teacher. And I remember the first time we did like a running exercise. Oh my gosh, you should have seen, if you could see the look on his face when I started running. I mean, it went from like, oh, this girl's probably got potential, to, oh my gosh, what is this girl doing? Because, like I said, I'm not a runner. And I think he realized, oh, she is not a runner at that point. But he still would pester me for the next 4 years of my life. All I would hear from him was him bugging me to do track or cross country to be like my sister. And this led to me believing that maybe if I was skinnier, I would run better. And that is probably one of the main reasons why I started to eat less. Because I wanted to be skinny in order, for some reason, to impress the people who were impressed by my sister. Moving right along into middle school, when I entered 6th grade, this is when we did a whole section on like nutrition and that kind of stuff. And one of the things we had to do was just for a week keep a food journal of what we ate. And the same friend who at that birthday party told me to maybe it wasn't a good idea for me to eat that cheesy popcorn. She, for that whole week, every morning when we were at our lockers, she would tell me how little she ate for breakfast. And I remember distinctly there was one morning that she claimed she ate 2 grapes that she skinned. She took the skin off of them because they were just, that would be too many calories. And I was just like, oh my God, shut up. And she would always be like, what did you have? And finally, at that point, my mom would buy Lucky Charms and like the sweet cereals, and because she knew I would eat them. So I would be like, oh, I had Lucky Charms, and she'd be like, I had my 2 grapes. And I'm just like, whatever. So yeah, great friend there. She is then also the friend who later that year told me I could not be friends with her and her popular friends because I was too fat to be seen with them. So during this section on nutrition, we did a section on eating disorders. And my teacher showed us a movie, I don't remember the title of it, but it was about a girl who had anorexia. She developed anorexia and then how it affected her life. And I remember sitting with my new friends who accepted me as a fat child, even though apparently I really wasn't that fat back then. I was just a little chunky. But anyway, I was sitting with my friends, and I remember me and this one girl, we were really close, and she and I look at each other and we're like, we would never do this. Actually, my whole group of friends, we all just were like, we would never starve ourselves like that. Sure enough, I kid you not, maybe 2 weeks later is when I started to really decrease what I ate. And it started with I stopped eating breakfast. And then it slowly transformed into bringing one thing for lunch. And then that one thing slowly turned into an apple. And that apple slowly turned into just a single bite of an apple. And there were days where I brought my apple and threw it away. Always wanted to be a vegetarian. And it was around 6th grade that my mom finally caved in and let me stop eating red meat. And that is when I started to like kind of wean off red meat, and I didn't eat it as much, and then slowly it was no red meat. I saw vegetarianism as a way to eat less. That I could cut out the fatty, gross red meat and I could lose weight. And that's what I did. And on top of that, I wasn't eating breakfast, and I was eating like 1 apple, if that, if I wasn't just throwing it away. And then at dinner, I would eat everything but the red meat. I usually ended up eating salad, maybe some rice, maybe some pasta, and the occasional like chicken. And I didn't eat fish back then. That was later. But so it was just, I was barely eating anything, and I started to lose weight, and it became noticeable. So by 8th grade, so about age 13, 14, I was still kind of a little chunky, but it was the summer. It was like the end of 8th grade into the summer that I lost a ton of weight, to the point that my old teachers didn't know who I was. And I loved that. I loved that people didn't recognize me. And they wouldn't recognize me as that fat kid. They would see me as that skinny kid. And that was so important to me. That is what really pushed me to eat less and less and less. It pushed me to give up chicken because I saw how giving up red meat was so effective. So I cut out chicken and poultry and all that stuff. And then all I was eating was like fish, and not even that often. Like maybe if we went out, I would. I was still eating dairy, but I slowly cut out dairy as well. I started drinking soy milk, and that was it. Like there was no turning back at that point. And it's so funny to me because I remember distinctly having this conversation with my friends in 6th grade saying we would never be anorexic. And it was that same year that I became borderline anorexic to the point that it developed into anorexia. So part 2 is going to be more of like my high school years and what happened then, but this was just the backstory, the background of where my story started and how it's going to come to now. I hope you enjoyed this video, and definitely stay tuned for part 2 in the future. Definitely subscribe so you'll be sure to be notified when that one comes out. And I hope you liked the video, and I will see you next time. Bye!